Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And today we are building in Glimmerbrook, which is really weird. I tend to only build here maybe around Halloween. I think the last time I did build here was last year at around Halloween when I did a cottage kind of in the same style, actually, for a quote-unquote good witch. And we are building another little cottage here because that just seems to fit really nicely with this world. But I'm really excited about this one. I did use an image on Pinterest to kind of help me out a little bit because, let me just explain this. I am terrible at building homes with these kind of roofs. That's what I'm going to say because I don't know how else to really explain it. But like the roof and how they kind of blend in with each other, the different roof pieces, the different slopes, the really like high sloped roofs as well. I just feel like I can't make them look good, but this is the first time that I felt really confident with it. Maybe in such a small build. I had a build at the beginning of this year. Was it this year? And I built it in Windenburg, which you see a lot of roofs like this with the builds of Windenburg. It's very, very Tudor-esque, I suppose. But I did a build, and I think it was for a family with like triplets or something. I don't remember exactly, but it had one of these sloped roofs that kind of almost went to the ground like this. I think it may have been up one more story, but I don't know. I feel like I could just never make them look nice. And this was, I'll say, one of the few times that I liked the final product. I really, really enjoyed this cottage. It did become a little bit more rustic and whimsical than I was originally anticipating. I kind of wanted to go full brick at one point, and I wanted it to be a little bit darker, but then I started playing around with different assets in game. A lot of cottage living started to appear, but I did try, I think, some things from growing together. Like I couldn't really decide exactly what angle I wanted to take. And then I thought to myself, you know what, like why am I trying so hard to make this so different? Why don't I just kind of go with my gut and see where it takes me? So I ended up using the thatched roof from Cottage Living, and immediately I said to myself, okay, cool, yep, this is coming together. I know exactly what I want to do. And I basically made it into kind of a Tudor style cottage, I suppose. And I used these wallpapers from Get Together to do that. And I ended up using, I think, a lot of Get Together actually for the exterior. It was primarily Get Together, though these little like chimney stacks here are from Cottage Living as well. But I thought it was a nice combination. I've been stumbling over my words today, something fierce. I don't really know why that is, and not necessarily on this voiceover, obviously, but that was the first of probably many for this voiceover. I don't know, maybe I'm tired. Does that happen to you guys? Like when you guys get tired, do you just start stumbling over your words? Like you can't think straight? I feel like that's where I'm at. But anyway, we are now working on just some decorations for the exterior of the home. I was going to use these climbing flowers from Jungle Adventure, but I ended up kind of deciding against it and getting rid of them. It looked a little bit too much, but I did use, I want to say it's like a crawling ivy from Get Together that has flowers on it. It looked a lot more whimsical to me, so I ended up going with that, but I think I put it on off camera. And now we're starting on the landscaping. Again, a lot of Get Together. I used the landscaping items from Get Together more than I want to admit. I use them in like every single build, but yeah, I don't know. It was just really pretty. I love the landscaping and how it came out, but I was realizing as I was doing this, how much more space I had on this lot outside of where the house was. I knew I was going to have so much yard space, so I saved a lot of the landscaping and the planning of the yard until the end of the build after I had done the interior, because I knew it was going to be probably just as time consuming as the interior was going to be, and it was kind of close. I don't know, it took a little while, but I really liked it. It looked overgrown, but I used these purple roses from the Cottage Living debug menu. I thought it pulled everything together really, really nicely. And I finally used this archway from base game. I have quite literally never, ever used that before in my entire life. And I was thrilled to actually use it here. I was just excited because I had never used it before. But that's where I add the ivy, I add some coral balls, and then I also put that cute little plant with the little like mushroom. It looks like a little gnome house. I think that came from, did that come with Growing Together? I think that came with Growing Together. I can't remember. I think it did. I also added some terrain paint, and then we end up going on to the interior because I just knew the exterior landscaping was going to be a lot. Now, this ends up being a 2-bedroom and 2-bathroom home. I was hoping for more. There is an opportunity to turn one of the rooms down here on the first floor into an additional bedroom if you really needed that space for a bigger family. But I was envisioning this for 2 spellcasters who just had their first baby. I just thought it was a really cute idea. I used a bassinet, not a crib, so they don't have an infant. They just had a baby. And yeah, I thought it was a really sweet idea. I really liked the interior too, though it did take me a very long time to figure out a color scheme. You can see it here. This ends up being the final product, but it took me about 3 hours to come up with a color scheme, and I had to do it off camera because I was getting so frustrated with myself. I originally had tried kind of like a blue and gray color scheme to make it a bit darker, and then it just made me kind of sad because the outside was so warm and cozy, and it just made the interior feel cold, and I wasn't feeling it. So we ended up going with greens, blues, and a mixture of like soft cream woods and honey woods. It's a little bit of a mishmash, but I really liked it. I loved how it came out, and I hope you guys like it too. But the first rooms that we do work on, we work on the kitchen, we work on this dining space, and then there's like a little nook where I end up putting a fireplace and an armchair just because I couldn't think of anything else to put there. But I used the Country Kitchen Kit countertops and cabinets. So many k sounds. And then I was able to squeeze in a dining table with 6 chairs, which was really, really great. It does look very cramped, but your Sims can navigate around it no problem. I had no routing issues whatsoever when I play tested this build, which was really, really exciting to me. I was quite elated over that. But here is where I start bringing out some elements to really kind of suggest that this is more of a magical home. I don't go overly decorative with Realm of Magic things. I don't know, it's not like a pure magic build, but it just seems very whimsical with like touches of some magic here and there, you know what I mean? I did use the artwork that we got with Realm of Magic, and I also added these little like potions everywhere, basically any surface I possibly could. But I just thought that that was kind of a nice way to show that, you know, they're brewing potions, they're doing things like that. And this little book here, it's called Cooking with Moats, and it is from Realm of Magic, so it's basically like, I don't know what moats are, some form of magic, something magical, I don't know. But I thought it was really cute to kind of put a magical cooking book up there. And then I decorated the countertops. I used this cute little light from the Werewolves game pack just because I thought it was very fitting. And then I just used a lot of the Country Kitchen Kit again to decorate and clutter up the countertops because it works perfectly in this build and obviously works very nicely with the countertops and cabinets that I chose from that kit. I can't say pack, from that kit. And yeah, I thought it was a really sweet kitchen. It is pretty cluttered, but there are, I believe, 2 countertops for your Sims to cook on. So I think you could do the cook together interactions if you wanted to. I end up moving that paper towel roll that's next to the sink. I don't know if I do it on or off camera, but I free up that counter space for you guys to use as well. And then I decorated the mantle on top of the fireplace. I added some potions, this salt lamp. I always forget about the salt rock lamp. And I added another piece of artwork. Now, the way that I do this, you can see I took away the wall behind it so it didn't clip to it. And then I used the tool mod to go ahead and rotate this painting to make it look as though it was leaning on the fireplace and the mantle. So I thought that was really nice. I think I do that one more time out in the living space as well. And then I added some stacks of books next to that armchair. I did it twice in this build too. You can't judge me, okay? Still really excited about the book nook kit. It's really nice. I love the stackable stacks of books here because they just clip to one another. And I added a plant on top of one of them too, because I feel like the spellcasters that live here are very much into herbology. I think they very much like their magical plants and gardening. So I thought that was kind of nice. I used a fair amount of plants throughout the build, and they do have a small garden as well in their yard. And I think they also have a pond. I don't know, they wanted to be out in nature a little bit more, even though they have a very nice like paved driveway and stuff that may not really match that vibe. It doesn't matter. And here we are trying to work on the living space. Now the shape of this room was really challenging for me. I could not figure out a way to lay things out. So the room to the left, you can see that it's got like the stone flooring and it has the brick wallpapers. I do end up changing that. My original thought is that it was going to be a larger bathroom, but we had this half bath near the front entryway. So as I was finagling the couches, moving around the fireplace, trying to figure out a way to lay all this stuff out, I ended up adding 2, I think, tiles behind the couch here. I tried it, got rid of it, and then I tried again and I keep it. But I think on camera, I ended up platforming it just because I couldn't figure out a room shape. But later on, I get rid of that platform and I just make that a little kind of like bookcase nook thing. And it ends up working out really nicely, but it gave me the shape in the living room that I needed because I just couldn't figure out a way to lay this out. I did try it with these base game couches at first too, and they were just too big. They weren't working for me whatsoever. I couldn't figure out like where to put lamps and side tables and all this stuff. This build was actually a major struggle for me, but I loved the result. So I don't know, I was very pleased with it. And I ended up swapping out those couches with the high-backed couches from Cats and Dogs, which I never, and I mean quite literally never get to use. I don't like them in a lot of spaces. I don't think they work in a lot of spaces, but the second I pulled out one of them and put it on this wall, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do it. It's perfect. It's tying in the colors that I want. I'm going to use 2 of them. What do I care? I think this is going to be great. And I thought it looked actually pretty nice, and it didn't block the window as much as I thought it was going to. That was my main concern, but it gave me so much more space to play around with. The curtains framed that little love seat so much nicer, and I thought it looked fantastic. So I'm really excited about it. That's probably like my, I don't know if it's my favorite part of this build. That would be kind of weird to say, just the couches. I really like that I was able to use those. I've just never used them really, and it's always cool when you get to use things that you don't typically use. Like I used that archway in the front, then I got to use these couches. It was a very cool experimental build for me, I suppose. But yeah, this is pretty much the living space. I do put a couple of decorations on this coffee table, but nothing major. I put a wand and then that book about broomies, which is super cute. I actually read the description. It was basically like 3 roommates, so they called it broomies. You get it? I don't know. I thought it was really funny. And then I decorated this mantle as well, on this fireplace. I put like this little dusty trinket from the Basement Treasures kit, that little My Sim doll that looks like a witch, and then a few of the little gardening pots from the Greenhouse Haven kit. So I think this goes without saying, because unless I explicitly say it's a pack restricted build, you can assume that none of my builds are pack restricted. So unless I'm like, this is a base game build, or this is a base game and Cats and Dogs build, or whatever the case is, you can pretty much bet that I used almost every single pack or kit or something in some capacity. Now here I was struggling to figure out what exactly I should put because we already had the dining table. So I decided to put a Don't Wake the Llama table, and I thought that was a great addition. I don't get to use them very often in builds because I don't feel like I have the space, or I don't know, I kind of forget that they exist sometimes, which is too bad because I really do like that object. I thought this was the perfect opportunity to use it instead of putting like another dining table or breakfast table or something. And then I put this mirror from Realm of Magic on the wall, and then that is where off camera I had gotten rid of that platform and I just put the 2 bookcases in there. So it was like this little nook that I was able to squeeze them in there. And then I used this display shelf from Realm of Magic as well and filled it with mainly trinkets from the Paranormal Stuff Pack and the Werewolves game pack, which was kind of fun. There's also a cauldron, which I did size down 1. It still works great, but just so you know, the animation might look a little bit funny. I'm not quite sure, but it did work. So I guess that's really what I was looking for. And this is the room that I was kind of talking about, where if you wanted to make it into a bedroom, you certainly could. I would just add a door instead of the archway, and then you could do whatever you'd like with the space. That's if you just need more room, if you have a bigger family here, something that you wanted to have live in this build, that would be a great opportunity to do so. And then I decorated the entryway off camera. We have that stunning mirror from the Werewolves game pack, and then I put a garlic, well, we've got the little like string of garlic, but then we have the wreath of garlic out front too, because I was thinking that spellcasters and vampires probably don't get along too well, and I just figured that they were cautious, especially with a new baby in the house. I don't know. That was my thought. I also just liked it as a decoration. It was a little bit different. And now here is the half bathroom downstairs, where I did use the toilet and sink from the Vampires game pack. And I thought it was beautiful because it's got this really nice blue and white swatch that I really enjoy. And the bathroom is not very decorated. We've got a hanging plant, a piece of artwork. I think we might swap that out a little bit later too, but it's a very simply decorated bathroom. There's no windows just because of where that room is. And then we move on to the second floor where again, there is a bathroom and then 2 bedrooms. Now, the baby's room, the nursery, is very, very small and kind of awkward shaped. I did make sure that you could, of course, place like a single bed in there because, that baby is going to age up at some point. So I wanted to make sure that you could at least fit a bedroom set in there if you had to, if you were playing with Sims and they were aging up. But it is a nursery and it's an awkward shape, so you'll see it. But this is the primary bedroom. There is this bed from cats and dogs, and then there's a dresser, and I added a ton of like whimsical, magical looking items on top of the dresser as well. And it's very plainly decorated. I think with using this wallpaper, I didn't feel the need to decorate every single space on the wall that was barren because of the pattern of the wallpaper. It seemed like it was already decorated, so I didn't really use a lot of wall decorations, especially in the primary bedroom. I think I put 1 painting on the wall there, and then I add a hamper, and there might be a mirror on that wall. I don't remember because I already had that standing mirror that was in the corner. So no, I actually add the, what's it called? What are those called? Robes. And then we end up working on the nursery, which as you can see, I was making sure that you could get at least a single bed in there and kind of play around with the layout. But I used that beautiful bassinet from Realm of Magic and I stuffed it right near the window because I thought that would be beautiful. And even though this room is very small, I was able to get a lot in here and I was very, very surprised by it. I didn't know how to really lay things out. I think that was the challenge. It wasn't so much the size, but just the layout of the entire build. Well, not the entire build of this room. The build was a challenge too, but the room was actually the biggest challenge here. And I did add, I want to say one of those bookcases ends up staying. There is the little dresser from Cottage Living, which I love, and I used it in white. Just wanted to make this room very bright and happy. And then I added, I want to say there's a rocking chair. We've got like some toy clutter going on, and I used those little star-like string lights that we got. I think they're technically base game. If they're not base game, they're from Growing Together, but I can't recall. I used a few of those too just to add some really cute light to this room. I thought that would be really sweet. I didn't add a changing table to this nursery because with the baby objects that we still have in the game, you can't use the changing table to change them, I don't believe. So when that baby ages up into an infant, you can of course swap out that dresser with a changing table instead. And that was kind of my point, is even though this room is very cramped, you can swap out objects to make them age appropriate, get the things that you need in there and still at least have the space for it to function. Now I also changed that wall decal to the owl because I was thinking of magic and all that. I think the moon was nice, but that's more so catered towards werewolves. So I thought the owl was really cute. I also added a few different rugs here as well, just to make it look really, really cute and sweet. And I added this little bookcase that we got from base game. I think I lowered it. Yeah, I did. I lowered it a little bit with tool mod too. It's not a huge deal. And then I added a few toys as well on the ground and ended up just adding an additional rug too and another stuffed animal because the Bigfoot was underneath the bassinet. So I wanted there to be an accessible stuffed animal for when that little baby object becomes an infant. And that's pretty much it for the nursery. I add a fireplace here on the landing area. I don't add a lot of decorations whatsoever. Almost literally nothing, just added the sconces and a little rug. And then I didn't film the bathroom upstairs because it was pretty much identical to the one downstairs except with the shower tub combo from the Vampires game pack as well. And now we are finally working on the yard. So I used this fence from Outdoor Retreat. It's in the debug menu. And I broke it up because I wanted to use shrubs or landscaping to kind of break up the fencing. I was going to try to use these that I used all around the house, but I didn't quite like how it looked, so I ended up using some shrubs that are a little bit more manicured. I think they were from the Get Together debug menu as well, but first I went through the Cottage Living debug menu and pulled out a few different things that I was eyeballing that I knew I was going to want to use at least somewhere, at least as a possibility. Now this yard, okay, I really, really struggled with this yard though. I'm going to admit that, and it's not my best work, okay? I am my own worst critic. You all might love it, and I hope that you do. But of course, as always with any of my builds, if you download them, you can do whatever you want with them. You can change them, you can add things, get rid of things, it doesn't matter. But I'm gonna say, this yard was really, really hard for me because I wanted the house to be centered because I thought it needed to be centered because of where this big like driveway is, basically this big walkway to the front of the property. I really wanted the house to be centered with it, but I kind of divvied up the yard in 4 squares, which is a little bit odd. It's almost too symmetrical, but I tried to make it look a little bit natural in some places. I don't know. So here in the front, there is, I think there's laundry. So we've got like a, I was about to call it a drying rack, a clothesline. Why do I always want to call the clothesline a drying rack? Anyway, there's a clothesline and then the wash bin, so you can do laundry as well. But I thought it was a little bit more natural, outdoorsy, whimsical to kind of have the outdoor laundry stuff. So right here, where all of the miscellaneous objects are, that's where that ends up being. And there's just a walkway from the front to this arched area that's separated and fenced in, and this ends up being where the gardening plots are, as you can see. And I did use the oversized crop gardening plots because I just really like those. I haven't used them in a long time. And I added just a couple of decorations around this area as well. There are only 4 plots, which isn't a huge deal, but it's not a significant garden. So you might be thinking, well, if, April, if they're really into plants and herbology and stuff, they probably have a bigger garden, so please make a bigger one if you feel the need to do so. But that's what I ended up coming up with, and I really liked it because I got to use that arch, which is technically a wedding arch, but I really like it as just decoration. I thought it was really pretty. And this is the pathway that I mentioned earlier. It does kind of fade away into that little garden area, and then once you go through the garden area, there is a picnic table. I didn't give them a grill like any outside appliance or anything like that, but there is a picnic table and a picnic basket, so I thought that was very nice. And then when you go past that, you're kind of like wrapping around the house, and originally I think you're gonna see me try to make a pond work. I don't remember if I cut that out or not, because honestly the pond tool was giving me some grief this day. And I tried to add a little pond, but what I end up doing is once you go past the picnic table, onto the other side of the build, the chicken coop and like yard space for the chickens to kind of roam. That's what I ended up putting there. And then there is a very small pond, if you can even call it that. It's more of a puddle. It's more of a puddle, but they got some fish so they can go fishing, and that's towards the front of the build. So there are a lot of activities outside, but there's still opportunity to add more if you wanted to. And that is actually pretty much it for the build. I hope you all enjoyed this one. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, and I will catch you next time I post a video, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
All these drives